Let's welcome Sue, Gina, and Dave. This show is for real mature audiences.
And welcome, Stamford residents, to Undressing Stamford, where we peel back the layers of the city of Stamford, Connecticut, and to uncover its politics, its stories and secrets, and from community happenings to candid conversations with its people, we reveal the naked truth about what makes this city tick. And I am joined by Gina Calabrese and Hi. Susan Halpern, myself, Dave Adams, and Gina, what's going on this weekend?
Well, Memorial Day weekend this weekend, so the beaches are going to be busy. We know how they get. I live near Cove Park, so it's crazy. Make sure you have your beach passes, people. You get them online. They're not stickers anymore. And Dave, I don't know, people don't want to go to the beach and they're going to be in town.
And it's supposed to rain.
Where can
they go?
There's always something going on here in town. I'm certain that pretty much every restaurant downtown in Bedford, on Bedford, is going to have something to do on Memorial Day.
Sue,
and Dave, he's an expert on karaoke.
Oh yeah. That's on Sunday. I don't know if there's going to be a special. But
he can tell you where all the karaoke plays.
There you go. What about you, Sue? Do you know of anything super special going on this Memorial Day? Isn't there a parade?
The parade is done.
The parade is done.
That was last weekend.
Okay.
No, and no, I haven't heard any plans or parties or what have you in Stamford. They are talking about. I see they're bringing back some kind of concert series in Mill River Park in July.
So we're going to have the Alive at 5 again? I thought that was canceled.
No, it's not Alive at 5. It's called Summer, I can't remember, but Summer something.
Yeah.
It's a summer, and it's going to be in July. And they're going to do some Friday events, and there will be music, and
something to look forward to either way.
Good. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, that brings us to our next segment. So how about it? Did you guys hear that the Cedar Heights Bridge is back in operation?
I did hear. I don't live in that part of town, so it doesn't, but I hear a lot about it.
People are posting.
Yeah,
Yep.
Well, that bridge was down for so long.
2 years?
2 years?
2 years. Yeah.
And
it
was
a small bridge like that.
I thought it was just supposed to be like a 6-month reconstruction. What happened there?
Sure. Well, listen, they built the Statue of Liberty. What? Not Statue of Liberty.
Empire State Building. 8 months.
That's right.
8 months.
That's what people keep referring to when they talk about this bridge.
But that bridge, wasn't it out just because some surveyor just made a mistake and it ended up being a little too short or something?
Too low.
Yeah.
Too close to the water.
Too close to the water.
And the surveyor was hired by the contractor, and a lot of people are grumbling on next door and different what is going to be done to make the city whole about this? What are we getting back? But at least it's open. But what about the Wire Mill Bridge? I hear about
that's
that one
the thing.
too.
Is I just went down Wire Mill and it's already shut down. So I think we're that whole area is just kind of that crossing. That it's one of the very few crossings between Long Ridge and High Ridge, but it is already shut down. So folks in that area they have a new detour to learn. And the rest of us, I guess we'll just avoid that area and try something else. Maybe, go up Schofield Town Road and go around.
Well, listen, now that you mentioned Schofield Town Road, did you see they want to put sidewalks in there now?
Oh, really?
All the way up Schofield Town Road to the school.
All the way to the school?
Northeast is over there.
Yes, Northeast. That's a new...
but that Northeast is just at the beginning of Schofield Town Road.
Yeah, well, they went from the bottom, from High Ridge Road all the way up Schofield Town Road to the school. They want to put in a sidewalk. Now, they just paved that road 2 or 3 years ago, Schofield Town Road. So,
what do you think the bigger plan is? Sidewalks usually bring
look how much
multi-unit buildings.
Yeah. Look how much property they have to take. They're going to have to take for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of very nice single-family homes up there on that road.
Oh, sure they are. And,
right
so
across
it'll be
the street.
interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the neighborhood wants to do there. you
Well,
know.
I mean, what about the nature center? What's going to happen there?
Well, that's included. That would be included.
Well,
in the
things.
project.
Let's see what happens when North Stamford expresses their opinion about what happens in their neighborhood and whether the city leaders will actually heed that. Of course, most of the city leaders live in North Stamford.
Isn't that funny? Let's see what happens. We're gonna have to see what happens.
Right. I know they posted on Nextdoor. Carl Weinberg actually is taking a survey of the neighborhood there, and what people think about putting in the sidewalk there. So
Well,
it's on. It'll be on Nextdoor. I'm sure.
Why
There
do
you
they
go.
want to put sidewalks there?
They have grant money,
Oh,
for that project.
no. Well, of course.
well, so
well,
let's
of
put
course.
sidewalks in because we
yeah,
got
but
some
the
money.
city will have to match it.
Exactly.
You know.
And then
There's always matching
how
funds.
far
Yeah.
up Schofield Town Road will the sidewalk end when we run out of money?
Yeah. Well, that's it.
It'll be a big project.
Okay, and we'll see.
Well, that brings us to our next segment, hot news.
Hot topics.
Yep.
Muy caliente.
So our first hot topic is the Board of Finance. Its failure to approve the Fund 57 budget before it went to the Board of Representatives. So, Dave, I think you're the person.
Well,
who's gonna-
you
the
know,
point person who's gonna
yeah.
tell us all about that. And what is Fund 57?
Well, let's get to what actually.
Is it like Heinz 57?
Yeah, it's kind of like Heinz,
Okay.
right? No, actually, but this was the budget meeting. This is for the entire budget for the city of Stamford. The budget could not be voted on by the Board of Reps because the Fund 57, which funds, it's a piggy bank for future school construction projects, but sitting at $63 million right now, no money's been spent out of it, and it should be somewhere in the area of like $60 million, but we've gained $3 million in interest because there's no money coming out of it. But we are picking up projects. But because Fund 57's been in place for the last this would be the fourth year now. They historically the last 3 years the Board of Finance has had an independent vote on funding Fund 57, and this year that did not happen. So when the Board of Reps took it up, the several members of the Board of Reps, including the majority leader, really felt that the matter of the budget was not properly before them because Fund 57, which was included as an option in the budget, was never voted on as it had been in the last 3 years. So it's kind of an interesting thing because I really felt like they should have thought about this.
Dave, does it have to be voted on?
Well,
It was voted on in the last 3 years, so...
Well, listen, their ultimate goal is to have $1.5 billion in this Fund 57 because that's what they project they'll need to replace the infrastructure going forward in the schools, years to come.
1.5 billion.
Yes, that's their
Target.
anticipated target. And the issue is that they had a $33 million surplus, right, from last year, according to the budget that was done.
Right.
33 million. So the with the Board of Finance, J.R. McMullen had requested to not put money into Fund 57 from this surplus because I think that was the vote. They wanted to take $5 million from 33 to put it in this Fund 57, right?
Instead of increasing the taxpayers or the mill rate on the taxpayers.
Exactly. So that's a little bit of history behind that Fund 57.
Well,
Okay, so they want to take, there's a $33 million surplus from last year's budget.
Right.
And J.R. McMullen, a member of the Board of Finance, wanted to take $5 million of that to put into
He
Fund
did not
57.
want
I
to.
did not want to.
I don't think we were even
Okay.
up to last year's
Okay.
budget. We're
Right.
still working with
23,
2023.
you're right.
And it was $11 million out of 2023, but it's 33 total because we had $22 million from the previous year because we're so behind on our audits and they're just getting caught up on now.
Right.
that our credit rating actually went down.
Okay,
From,
because
from
one of you, and
AAA
this is
to-
what, because if I don't understand this, I think a lot of people listening,
Right.
won't
Exactly.
understand it at first. You said that this affects the mill rate.
Correct. Right.
How does the $5
So the-
million taking or not affect the mill rate?
So the $5 million is, it's either going to come out of the mill rate or it's going to come out of the surplus.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at what has happened with the surplus up to this point, we were now I think three years behind schedule with the audits. The surplus seems to be now kind of like a slush fund for whatever projects. It has to go to capital projects. It can't go to operations, as far as I understand. And it's just been kind of like a slush fund. The thing is that Fund 57 is a very interesting category of funding because it's neither capital nor operations.
Supposed to be just for schools.
It's just supposed to be for school construction, and as such, it's not under the purview of a lot of the oversight that would normally be in capital projects or in operations. So this $5 million and how it affects the mill rate, if it's being taken if it's being added to the budget for the following year, it's going to be added to the mill rate, so it's going to increase the mill rate. It was suggested, like it was suggested during the Board of Finance deliberations, if it was to be taken from one of the surplus or the amount of surplus,
Right.
then that would actually lower the mill rate to
Okay.
the mill rate minus the $5 million.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. I guess I just got the person wrong. I thought it was I thought it was one of the member you mentioned, J.R. McMullen. I thought he was the person.
So
who,
he actually he
He did not want to.
right, he did not want the
Fund 57.
right.
at all.
Money, right.
Well, not necessarily not funded at
Okay.
all,
Yeah.
but not funded out of the mill rate.
Oh, I thought you didn't want to fund it out of the surplus.
No,
Okay.
so that was the motion that was made on
Got
the
it.
Board of Finance. Is that J.R. McMullen made the motion to remove the $5 million from the coming year's budget.
Right.
Uh,
That makes sense.
so that way
We
it
have
keeps
a
the mill
surplus.
rate down.
Right.
And unfortunately, that cut failed. The problem is that in previous years there was a completely separate vote for Fund 57 and to fund it
Right.
each year, and that vote separate from the budget vote to set the mill rate,
Right.
it would have been a separate vote. That did not happen this year. So multiple members from the Board of Finance,
So the budget was forwarded to the Board of Representatives for their vote.
right, as a recommendation, but the
But
recommendation
this
included
issue-
both.
Right. Right.
It included a mill rate with the Fund 57 and a mill rate without the Fund
And
57.
it was about a half a percentage point.
Yeah,
Would
something
have
like
made,
that. Yeah.
that was the
Which
kind of
adds
the
up to
difference.
real money.
It could.
And
It
yeah.
could,
Oh, sure.
In
And
taxes, yeah.
there was arguments made by a number of the reps on the board, or one or two members on the Board of Reps, that it was a small amount of money, but per month for them, based off of their numbers. But it's all just baby steps, and pennies add up to dollars.
Sure
I mean,
it does. Sure it does.
so we're gonna have
But
to
this
see
was
what
a
happens.
procedural matter, and there were members of the Board of Representatives, including the majority leader, who thought the issue wasn't properly before them because they did not have that final recommendation from the Board of Finance.
Absolutely.
And then there was an opinion from Corporation Counsel, that the matter was properly before the BOR. So what happened in the end was, I think they pretty much had sent it back to the Board of Finance
Yeah,
to
that's-
consider this. And you were saying that there were two members of the BOF who wrote to the BOR
That's
and
correct.
said, we did not vote on this.
Right.
We did
Well-
not vote on the Fund 57 issue, which meant the BOR didn't have authority to vote
Well,
on
they
it.
could have. They could have voted on it.
Yeah, but it would have been
it
it might have been improper procedure for them.
Questionable.
Exactly.
been
I
invalid.
wouldn't want to take that responsibility.
Right.
If I
But
was
I
them.
often, I'm just gonna riff on right now. A lot of what I see in Stamford looks to me like amateur hour, and I am a lawyer. I do watch, legislation. I get involved in legislative work. I guess once in a while I watch Congress. And like when you know how things are supposed to happen, it almost seemed to me like some of the BOR members like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a little glitch.
Right.
We'll just vote on it. But, that's not how government is supposed to run.
No.
That's not how the law operates. I mean, maybe there's this little, let's just overlook this little,
listen,
step.
and
But,
this all has to be settled by May 25th.
that's it.
Well, that's the
Going
other thing.
back to Memorial Day.
Yeah,
How
and
we
here
open
it
the
is
show.
on Memorial Day weekend too. So I see the Board of Finance has to go back and vote on this again before it goes back to the Board of Reps. So I see the Board of Finance has a meeting scheduled for May 22nd at 10 o'clock in the morning.
And that's a Thursday.
That's this week. Yeah, Thursday morning.
10 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
10 o'clock in the morning.
So do we think the BOR is going to be spending Memorial Day
they might have
meeting?
to.
Well, no,
Like,
they're
it's going to ruin their Memorial. Is this going to interrupt
When
their
is the-
Memorial Day plans?
I think that there's going to be an emergency meeting on Thursday
Evening, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thursday
Yeah.
evening, and
Some people might already be traveling. They might be
Yeah,
on the road
but-
by then.
do we have the Board of Reps website up? Is there a meeting scheduled yet?
Nothing yet.
Because I didn't see
Checked before
anything.
we went live.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
let's see real quick if we can see if maybe it got updated while we
In the
were
last
waiting.
half hour.
Well, we're waiting for updates at all times, right? So I don't see anything up there. I see transportation. Let's reload the page.
Yeah, good eyes, Dave.
Yeah. So transportation committee's coming up. We got personnel committee coming up, and that's today. Those are both today and
Hey, Nate,
right
can you
now.
scroll down.
And yeah, and state and commerce committee, operations committee. But the 22nd. That's the 22nd, 6:30. Let's see if we can. No, because they're gonna have to move operations if
Right.
anything.
Right.
Let's see. It might be on Friday. Might be a Friday meeting. Ruin everybody's Friday.
Can you imagine? On a holiday weekend. But it has to be done.
Because you know what? I think that there's going to be a debate over whether or not they want to put money into Fund 57 or not. If they get a positive vote from the Board of Finance, then which I don't think
I
they
don't
are.
think that's gonna
I don't think it's going to happen. If his cut tied, if McMullen's cut tied, I think that
I don't think it's going to change.
no, I don't think it's going to change. So which means that the motion will fail, and then then we might not even have a discussion.
Well, then it goes to the Board of Reps.
Right, but I don't think they're going to they're not going to overrule the Board of Finance.
No. And the vote was pretty close to
Oh yeah, it's like it was
Two-thirds.
23
Yeah,
something. 23-8,
two-thirds.
I think it was.
right.
Yep. And so then there's the action report from the May 5th. I think that if you scroll down, you're going to see that there was a vote of the vote at the end was no, this was not the meeting. This was the regular board meeting. We're looking for the meeting from is the special meeting, right? Special budget meeting. That one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go down, you're probably going to see what the vote was. And the vote, I think it was 23-8 with one abstention. I might be wrong. Oh, no, 33-4 and one abstention. And this is the motion was amended from the original motion, which included the setting the mill rates, to kick it back to the Board of Finance and say, yep.
I remember that.
Yep. So this was an interesting night, and this is why you watch the meetings, kids. This is why you got to watch the meetings yourself. But you can always go back and watch the videos afterwards. It's on the Board of Reps website. Board of Finance has their meetings up, and our light just went out. Oh, joy!
And if you can't watch, you have these three geeks watching it for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Listen, don't leave us alone out here, okay? We need some help. So
Actually, I'm hearing more and more voices at a lot of the meetings, including last night's zoning board meeting, which I know we're not talking about.
yeah,
tonight,
listen. Let's
but it's good. Anyone who's listening, get out there.
Yep,
Speak
for
up.
sure. So let's move on to Stamford Public Schools on fire.
That's
Gina,
a really hot topic.
what are we doing here?
Wow. You know, I was hoping one of these weeks we would not talk about the schools, but there's just so much been going on in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like one thing after another.
Never-ending saga.
I don't know. I just don't remember when in my youth the schools.
I didn't have any
having-
children, and it's shocking for me to hear the stories that you hear from parents and teachers,
Right.
And you see in the newspaper every day. There's something
Even as
going on.
a Stamford resident and taxpayer,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
know how it affects our life here, and just growing up, we weren't hearing all these controversies constantly about. So let's just go back a couple of weeks because we've got schools on fire, and then in a little while we're going to be turning to another topic, homeschooling under fire. So, but let's
just
talk
talk
get started about the raging fires. So, in our last episode, we were talking about the school schedule and Tamu Lucero's insistence and her, the backup by the Board of Ed, especially the Board of Ed president, that this is going forward, not conversing with the community at all. Now, since then, there was, an incident, really a revelation about an incident that happened back in September. Now remember, it was a few weeks into the school year. There was a 14-year-old girl at West Hill High School, who was falsely accused of pushing an assistant principal. Who made that false accusation? The assistant principal herself. It resulted in criminal charges being pressed against the girl. She was a freshman at the school. And in fact, the SROs, the school resource officers, asked the AP a few times, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And the AP said, "Yes, I want the girl arrested."
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
she was interviewed by the police like 3 times.
Right.
And she said all 3 times that this occurred.
Right.
And they couldn't find a camera angle, right? Is that right?
I'm not sure. I think some of the interviews happened after the revelation. So she did kind of modify her story and say but let me tell you what happened. So the next day, a surveillance video, or video from a camera that was in the room was viewed, and it showed definitively that the girl did not push the teacher. Certainly not an assault. Probably didn't even touch the teacher. There might have been like a little incidental, non-criminal, contact just in the ordinary course of, moving. And so this all came out. And subsequently, the teacher had to go back. The AP had to go back to the police headquarters and was accompanied by the principal of the school to kind of modify her story and say, well, it was really confusing. I'm not really sure what was happening. In any event, this has finally come out all these months later. And on May 4th,
I was just going to ask, why was Zariah in that position in the first place?
So there had been a fight that day. Zariah was not involved in the fight. Her twin sister had recorded the fight on her phone. And I think in fairly recent years, school policy banned filming fights. And as the mom of a high schooler, I can tell you there's a good reason for that, because with social media and TikTok, it's a thing. The kids, and I'll tell you what I learned from talking to my teenage boy, that a lot of the fights are planned ahead of time, actually.
It's a video.
And then their fight.
Get out.
And then, the kids all come around. I've seen some of these videos, they cheer on and it gets dispersed, but then, the videos get circulated. So then Zariah's twin sister, was getting suspended for filming the fight, which seems a little heavy in terms of a punishment. There's another side to that, film video recording can also be evidence. But in any event, Zariah's sister was in this room with the kids who were actually had been in the fight. They were getting suspended. They were waiting for parents to be contacted. The DOMIS director was in the room. Domus is an organization that, supports kids who are disengaged from school, etc. So a lot of these kids have, Domus counselors, and there was a security guard in the room as well. So then Soraya heard her sister was in the room, went there to see her sister. She was not allowed in by the AP, who was trying to maintain some kind of order. She got emotional, but there was no contact. And so that's how Soraya got into this, was in this position of being falsely
And I
charged.
understood there hasn't been any contact, that there hasn't been any apology, I understand, to the student nor her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's what the mother apparently was hoping that she would get. There hasn't been any correspondence through the whole
Right.
school year.
So I'm not sure. I can't say when the Board of Education members knew about it. I don't want to say anything that I haven't verified, but I know that back in February they did have a meeting about it. So the incident occurred in
At least that long.
mid-September.
Yeah.
They met in February. I think it all came out probably in late April.
But didn't we
And-
just have a special meeting with the Board of Education?
So
And-
that's what I'm right. That's the top of the first. So I'm going to go in chronological order.
Oh, okay.
With
All right.
how
Here we go.
Stamford on fire. May 4th, a Sunday, late afternoon, the Board of Ed had a special meeting. I have to backtrack a second. Before that, they said, and I think they said this publicly, that they're treating it as a personnel matter. So that's why they weren't speaking publicly. And there's some justification for that because the, administrators have contracts and, as government employees, teachers, etc., are all subject to some kind of due process, legally and under the contracts.
You think-
So they're not going to be, but there comes a point where due process is no process, apparently, because on May 4th, the Board of Ed had this special meeting. Most of it was in executive session because this is sensitive stuff that involves lawyers.
Never mind.
And then they came out and they said that the president of the Board of Education, Michael Hyman, said that the board will be issuing a statement and the president will be issuing the statement, I assume on behalf of the board, within a few days. That was on Sunday, May 4th. It's now Tuesday, May 20th. There is no statement yet.
Days, weeks, months.
By the way, Michael Hyman is he has a position at Domus. He is Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Domus gets money from the school district because they have contracts with the school district to provide their advocates. And I think that there's some conflict. There's a lot of conflicts of interest.
Yeah, I would think there would be a conflict of interest.
Operating here for Mr. Hyman. He should be recusing himself from every funding vote for Domus. He hasn't been consistent with that. He has at times done it, but not consistent. I think there are also issues, conflict of interest issues, because there was a Domus director as
In
a
the room?
witness to
Yeah.
the event. And there may have been another Domus advocate involved. And there can be a lot of subtle pressures at play. The way I see it, the Domus advocate might be feeling a little pressure because they get funding from the school district. And if their testimony reveals that the district has been covering this up or didn't handle it properly, that could jeopardize their funding. Mr. Hyman has a conflict because as a member of the Board of Education, he's got a fiduciary duty to the district. So that says we want to make sure the district's protected. We want to make sure liability is limited or non-existent. But they also have a duty to make sure that the board is, and that the, internal managers and administrators are following the rules and the law.
Absolutely.
So I think, there were some real issues there. So
So-
that could almost be a story in and of
assistant
itself.
principal is still been working there all this time with no consequence at all. as
She's
far
still
as-
there in the building, and this girl is still attending school there.
Isn't that
And it's almost the
Tragic.
end of the school year.
Yeah.
How could this
nothing's
happen?
been done about it?
It's typical Stamford public schools. Sweep it under the rug. ignore it, delay, and then maybe it'll just go away. And also, we're talking about people who don't have the resources and power that the people in the district have. These are ordinary residents of Stamford. The student is Black, her mother is Black, and by the way, Mr. Hyman is Black, and he's a former president of the Stamford NAACP.
Right.
You would think he would be being more of an advocate for the community on this, and I'm been wondering where the NAACP is on this issue,
Right.
and why we haven't been hearing from them here.
We
in
haven't heard
Stamford,
anything.
but
Yeah,
no,
good point.
not yet. So I can only assume that conversations are happening, and I know people are calling. So we had that on May 4th. Now on May 9th, that was a Friday. I was in the car with my son, who's a teenager at Stamford High, and he said, "Mom, there's this big, there were the police called at West Hill today, and a SWAT car and ambulances, and a kid was stabbed." I said, "What?"
What?
He goes, "There were multiple fights," and he showed me a video, and he's looking on his social media. So again, I'm trying to be cautious about not pressing, spreading misinformation, but we didn't get much information at all from officials.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even hear about
So
that.
there was a lot of discussion about this on Next Door. And, okay, so there are fights. There are fights every day at Stamford High Schools, and some get pretty bad.
Kids are
Okay,
kids, right?
Every day. I think less so at Stamford High
Yeah.
here for my son. So at one point I heard there were 2 fights. Then I heard there were 7 fights. So picture this, it happens, I go on Next Door, someone's posting about it, it's basically parents who were talking to their kids and whose kids were showing them videos. So the principal of West Hill High, Mike Rinaldi, sent a recorded message to all the parents that there were maybe 2 fights and that they were unrelated, and the police were called, nothing about injuries. So then, we know my son showed me this video of a student being on a stretcher, being put into an ambulance with a caption that it was in teen speak, but translated basically said, "You're going to get stabbed. This is what happens if you touch a girl when it's uninvited or unexpected." So it was something like that, and that this teen got stabbed. Then some of the moms were saying that a nurse got punched in the face.
Wow.
I'd heard that there were 7 fights. So it was pretty bad. Oh, biggest part of the story, the school sheltered in place. And I think it was near the end of 3rd period, perhaps, because what I heard was that students couldn't get to their 4th period class. They were told to shelter in place. It was basically a lockdown. Now think about it. Shelter in place usually means there's an active shooter potential, something, maybe
Bomb
some
scare.
bomb scare. You don't shelter in place for a school fight, but this was heavy duty enough that they had everyone just stay where they were in their classrooms. Teachers had to draw the shades down and keep the kids in the classroom.
Well, did you ever get notification what exactly did happen?
Well, my son doesn't attend West Hill, so I
No.
don't know, but I don't, I know that we haven't really heard anything else. So there was that.
Right.
And I'm not even sure it got official news coverage.
I didn't see anything.
And then on that same day, and
Right.
people weren't sure. They kind of thought it was related. So I remember when I was on Next Door that day, there was a mom who had shown up 25 minutes before dismissal because she had to drop off her son's baseball cap. So she got there and kind of arrived as this was all happening. And so imagine you're picking your kid up from school, you're dropping off his baseball cap. There were police
It's all over
cars.
the place.
According to my son, there was a SWAT team.
Yeah,
a
no, that must be.
the EMT. But at Roxbury School, which is across the street. No, is it Roxbury?
Or was
it's
it
on
Still
Roxbury.
Meadow?
No, Still Meadow.
Still Meadow.
No, I think it's
Was it Roxbury?
It's Roxbury
That this
because
other
it's on
thing was going
Roxbury
on?
Road. So around the same time, or maybe a little
That
later,
is right
school
across the
dismissal,
street.
there was a car that was on the property. I don't know
It
if
was
it was
Still
in the
Meadow.
pickup
Oh, it was
line.
Still
It
Meadow
was Still
School.
Meadow.
Yeah,
Okay,
not
sorry,
Roxbury.
my bad. And it was like this refurbished police car that had a fire extinguisher, like as part of the design, but nobody knew this at the time. All of a sudden, white smoke started coming out from underneath the car, from out of the car. So then that school, I think, also went into shelter in place. And, those are elementary kids. So they're young. It's scary.
But there was a car chase
And then there
involved
was a
with
car
that
chase
too, and there
because the
was
police were
police
called for
cars
that.
were damaged and other,
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a
Couple
three or
of-
four
Yeah.
police cars that had to
Yes.
be towed away? They were like
Yes.
completely immobile.
Well, there was a chase up to High Ridge
Right.
Road. I understand.
Right, because there were all these things, and then you know who might be able to tell us more about that?
Mhm.
Our upcoming guests when we get
Yes.
through this segment. So stay tuned,
Yeah.
people. So then that was only May 9th, okay? May 13th, there was a meeting of the Board of Education's Teaching and Learning Committee about changes, cuts really, to the special education program at the school. So the superintendent added 10 new special ed administrators to the budget, but removed 12 special ed teachers. The Board of Education tried to add 6 of the teachers back, and the superintendent and associate superintendent Amy Beldotti, whose kids went to the schools here, also said, no, we don't want even those 6 teachers.
What is the rationale in adding administrators but removing teachers?
So I do think, and I'm talking to 1 or 2 people in the buildings whom I trust, who said there is some need for some special ed administrators because of the paperwork and the forms, and also some of the knowledge for, creating what are called individual education plans and 504 plans. Those are the legal names of the plans that children who have special needs are entitled to under federal law. And then there are meetings called PPT meetings that those, administrators need to be part of. Right now, that aspect is handled by assistant principals at each school, most of whom do not have any particular expertise. So the idea is that if you have special ed administrators, they would take up that burden and there might be less on the teachers. Another function is supposed to be coaching of special ed teachers and professional development, which from what I hear, I think is needed in the schools. So do we need 10 of them? I think the idea is 1 per building, but I'm not so sure we need 10. Maybe we can do with even half of that, 5. And those are all 6-figure salaries,
Yeah,
obviously.
I imagine.
Well, they can go from school to school.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
6 would be planning 5.
The other thing is the superintendent, when she doesn't want to spend money on something or doesn't think it's important, all of a sudden a certain amount of money is a lot of money. And let me give you an example. The schedule, for example, to have an 8-period schedule, or how about this? They want to do this 4x4 schedule, and they're claiming that
Very
going
unpopular.
back to
Very unpopular.
going back to the previous schedule, which had 8 periods in an AB alternating day schedule, would cost $4.5 million. Okay, these 10 special ed administrators are over $1 million easily, right? So, and the whole school budget is about $360
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean,
so where are your priorities?
Right.
You're making cuts, you're making, this seems the $4.4 million for additional teachers to teach in a pedagogically sound schedule seems like a good use of $4.5 million.
talk
so
about a
then-
rounding error,
Yeah.
a little over 1%,
Yeah. And I don't want to get overly technical and drag this on too long, but with the teachers, the district is claiming that we actually have enough special ed teachers, but I know some have been leaving, some have left, and that the caseloads are actually going to be in line with what the state requirements are. However, that's not really an accurate measure, because it's not the number of students, it's what those students need. And it's like basically based on hours of particular kinds of support. So a student might need like a half hour of maybe, I'm trying to think of something from the special ed lingo, like reading support. But another student might need an hour of that, right? And sometimes they group students together with very different needs.
Don't they?
But the teacher has only like 12 students, so
Right.
we're good.
But don't they send a lot of special ed students to other towns around?
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me. Yes. So this is the crazy thing. Our budget for out of district placement, that means the school district, Stamford Public Schools, cannot meet the needs of these students. So they have to pay for private tuition to send the kids to private schools. That budget has gone like, it's like mushroomed, right? It's gotten really big. But our budget for special ed in-house teachers has gone down. Why? Maybe if we were doing a better job in-house,
You
we
wouldn't
would
have to
save that.
send them
Now,
out.
you know what I thought was outrageous? Mr. Hyman at this meeting, when I think it was Dr. Hammond, another Board of Ed member, raised an issue, a question about the 230 students who were being sent out of district. He almost took umbrage at that and said, well, how do you think the parents of those children who have those exceptional needs feel about that? As if they're not worth that expenditure. That's not what she was saying at all. What she was saying is, we're doing a really poor job of educating special ed students
our town.
within the district. And that's why these costs, it's not that the kids aren't worth it. We're not, we're not deploying the money well, and we're not, we're not using the money the way we need to.
Sure.
Because yes, there will always be a number of kids whose needs can only be met, right, by out of district places. But I think it includes a lot of kids who have, pretty common, I think, reading issues, for example. I'm thinking of a few people I know who might not necessarily like need to go to a school that specializes in that. Some of that can really be done in the district if we just did things better.
Right. I get it.
So that's
true.
what ends up costing. And then last week, a teacher at Turner River Middle School resigned and then was arrested because she took a cell phone away from a student,
Yeah, I
but
heard
in
about this.
doing so, got physical, which was inappropriate and improper, and then destroyed the cell phone and denied it and then lied about it.
Well, she resigned because of this issue. Is
She
that correct?
resigned, because it
the
came
phone
out.
issue.
Yeah, it
I
came
wonder
out
why
whether
that
what she
assistant
did
principal
was
didn't.
what?
I wonder why that assistant principal didn't resign. This
Well,
teacher just
Exactly. Well, that's it. No, this was actually, I think, a special education teacher
Right.
who resigned.
Yeah.
But that is a really good contrast. So we have this special
Yes.
education teacher who resigned. She was caught red-handed, apparently.
Yep.
And now, but this other person has been just lingering around since
no
September.
consequences.
Yeah.
But so this this teacher who destroyed the phone, how does this fit into the the grander scheme of things? I mean, are teachers having a hard time with their students?
Well, Turnip River, I don't think anything justifies what this teacher did, but Turnip River became quite notorious last year because there's a group of girls who were kind of really going around the school
Yep.
and bullying and
Teachers,
getting
was
violent
it?
with teachers.
I heard that. Yes.
They would maybe, and I heard stories of kids doing this. They might go to a classroom because there's a student inside that they have a beef with. And then when the teacher doesn't allow them in, they kind of barge in. And I remember in one incident, this is reported in the newspaper, that the students were told to leave. They got mad. They kicked a garbage can. In another incident, I think a teacher asked the students where they were supposed to be because they were not supposed to be in the hallway. Now, these are like 13-year-olds, right? And they said, we don't have to listen to you. We don't even know you. It escalated. And then one of the students threw a cell phone at the teacher. Oh, and in the meantime, apparently someone was setting a fire in one of the bathrooms. So this was the environment at TOR last year.
Sounds
And
crazy.
Isn't that where the teacher was accused of molesting the
That was Strawberry Hill.
Strawberry Hill?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
another
Yeah.
school.
But I think that, I thought about, wow, Stanford School's on fire because all of these things happened within 2 weeks. It's sort of like which issue was eclipsing the other. And, I know that they had a lot to do. They had a lot on their plate up at Central, up downtown this week. But, this was really crazy. And I think that people thought that the issue with the assistant principal and the false charges was definitely going to be getting a lot more attention. And I think some parents are like, oh, now they're going to forget about the schedule. But actually, it seems like they're trying to, sweep
it under the
issue
table.
that's right under the table
That's true.
and talk about the schedule. And then one other thing is MIA, the principal of Davenport Ridge Elementary School.
Another school.
I think a very, very well liked, beloved principal, without notice, just went on leave, I think at least a month or two ago. And apparently the school had no principal for about 2.5 weeks, no support from the district. And then finally they sent an interim principal over, but that interim principal had been serving as the interim principal of Schofield Magnet School.
Wow.
So it's still very mysterious. And I've been talking to people about it and said, well, maybe there's a personal reason, and that's the reason that they are not talking about it or disclosing much. Usually, though, they'll say they were put on leave, or if it's something personal, they might say there's a medical issue or a family issue.
But I understand the parents haven't been notified of anything, nor the teachers at
Right.
that school.
No one's been told anything. So
So
that's
just
really
MIA?
the mystery. MIA.
That's crazy.
So with all that, right, hearing like just in 2 weeks, everything that's going, would you want to send your kid to a Stamford public school?
Well, I'd certainly be looking for other alternatives for
Right.
sure.
And one of those alternatives that's being increasingly embraced by people is homeschooling.
Yeah, but isn't that under fire? It's what in itself?
Yes, it's recently come under fire by a local state representative and our governor who tried to get some sneaky kind of, I could think of a kind of executive order thing going
Well,
for
that had-
regulating homeschooling. But
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that had to do with because of that man who had been kept captive in
Waterbury.
Yes,
Right.
and
Right.
his stepmother, actually, I think had pulled him out of school,
Right.
and there was no follow up as far as she was going to be doing homeschool.
Right.
Well, we're going to have to learn more about that in the next segment.